So who are these people, right? And I was on an expedition in 2012, and I happened to be in Papua New Guinea.
Ash, I watched the first two movies, and when I was sitting in the theater, I put my glasses on, and I felt like Jake Sully in the first movie when he's going back to Pandora, because
Right.
I felt like I was back in Pandora. You put me right there again.
Yeah.
And this time we get introduced to the Ash people. And that challenges our understanding of the Na'vi a little bit, because
Good.
what inspired...
Complexity, what a concept.
Hey, right? What inspired you to create a clan shaped by trauma and rage instead of harmony? And what did that allow you to explore in the larger mythology of Pandora?
I started from the premise that Neytiri was going to be this wounded creature from the loss of her eldest son, from that family tragedy. And it takes her down a hateful path. And I thought, all right, what if I took that and writ that large as an entire culture that has been traumatized and has gone down a hateful path as well, so that we see where it could lead for her if she cannot rescue herself or those around her rescue her. And of course, we love Neytiri. I think we've seen historically that she's the character that people are the most fascinated by. They like everybody, and Jake's the kind of the center. He's the rock at the center of the whole thing. But she's extraordinary. And so we don't want to see her fall, you know. And so this group that has fallen from grace, that are the apostate Na'vi, and they do challenge our understanding of the Na'vi, because the Na'vi are, they're in balance with their environment. They have this kind of very, this harmony with nature, spiritual belief system based on what they call the Great Balance, and the Great Balance is mediated by their deity Ewa, and Ewa is a real thing in this story. She exists as a planetary sentience that exists in the kind of biosphere of the planet. Well, what happens if Ewa abandons you? What happens if your mother abandons you? Do you think a child would process it that, oh, mom couldn't do anything? No, you just feel abandoned, right? And so, so that took me down the path of, all right, so who are these people, right? And I was on an expedition in 2012, and I happened to be in Papua New Guinea in the town of Rabaul. And Rabaul, there had been a volcano that erupted and buried the whole city. Wow. Not a big city. I think it was, 15,000 people, something like that. And they all had to move. Wow. A few people died, but mostly they had to move. But their city was buried by ash, like Pompeii, right? And I saw these kids out playing in these ash fields, and just the way the dust blew. We shot them in slow motion for the film, and it's like there was actually a hopefulness to that, because they didn't. The destruction was lost on them, because it was but the prior generation, you could see that those people had been highly traumatized by this event. They'd lost so much, and I thought, okay, let's call them the Ash people.
Wow.
Right? And then on that same expedition, I wound up in the highlands in PNG, and there was this tribe called the Baining, and the Baining have this big, elaborate fire ceremony that they do. And we didn't copy it exactly. Theirs is quite elaborate with these giant masks and things like that, but it's kind of amazing, and we filmed that. That became our reference for the sacrifice dance that the Ash people do.
Wow.
Now, within that, Una created her own ceremony. She created her own movement. She designed that weapon, which is actually based on a thing called a bukang, but she put two of them end to end so that it formed this kind of spiral thing. And she made up this whole dance, which is quite hypnotic.
Right.
I wish I could have put more of it in, because it goes on and on. It's quite amazing. And so I coupled the sort of the binding fire dance with what Una had created, and so all these sources feed into the creativity on a film like this. But it's got to feel real, even if you don't understand what they're doing. So the Quechua people in, I believe it's in Peru or Ecuador, they have a blood ceremony where they cut themselves and they cut each other and they dab themselves with blood, and so that was a little bit of inspiration for some of the crazy stuff that the Ash people are doing in the middle of the fire sacrifice ceremony, where they're putting the blood on themselves. Yeah, so
that's incredible.
Well, we just do a lot of research, right? And then it doesn't even matter if the audience understands exactly what it means to them, but there's this impression that there's more there, right?
That is incredible. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you for taking me back to Pandora. And it's such an immersive experience. You put me right there on the planet. Thank you so
Cool.
much, James.
Cool.
Amazing job.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed